All right. Welcome to Forward Future Live today, Friday, February 6th, 2026. I'm Matt Berman.
And I'm Nick Wentz.
We have a fun show, Nick. As always, we have three great guests. We have Tim Davis, president and co-founder of Modular, here to talk about everything AI hardware lock-in and why the future of AI infrastructure needs to be open and portable. We have Joe Floyd, friend of the show, multi-time return guest from Emergence Capital, here to talk
Yeah.
about the SaaS apocalypse this week, why AI and maybe Claude specifically caused what happened in the stock markets this week for SaaS companies. Then guest number three, Carina Hong, founder and CEO of Axiom, here to talk to us about how her 4-month-old AI startup cracked unsolved math problems and aced the world's hardest exam. Basically, the AlphaGo moment for math. But first, let's get into some news stories.
Yeah. That sounds great. What a lineup, by the way. This is going to be a fun show. So,
Absolutely.
kicking us off here, we're going to talk about Opus 4.6. So,
Hmm.
this came out a couple days ago, meaning yesterday, actually. But Opus 4.6 plans more carefully, sustains agentic tasks for longer, operates reliably in massive code bases, and catches its own mistakes, and has a 1 million token context in beta. So big release, kind of took X by storm here. I'm going to scroll down to this little graphic to see how we did on some of these benchmarks. So most notably,
It got a big bump on the agent stuff.
it certainly did.
Right. So like I think there was two major kind of features as part of this release. One is a lot of the agent stuff features, agentic tool use and being able to spawn multiple sub agents, having agent teams. That was a big part of this release. And then a million token context window, which is great to see. I mean, Google Gemini has had that for, a year and a half, 2 years. And this is the first non-Google frontier company to have a million token context window. And it performs really well against it. It's not just, having a bunch of tokens. You actually have to have high quality extraction and understanding of those tokens. So both of which
Yeah.
happened.
It, Interesting that 4.5 is still beating out 4.6 on agentic coding, Sweetbench, verified, and then scaled tool use by a notable margin here.
Yeah. So, but it's a good model. And then, like, not more than 15 minutes later, OpenAI dropped a big update for themselves.
They
I don't know.
certainly did. Um, what do you think is most impactful about this particular launch, though? You think it is the 1 million context window and the agentic tool use?
Yeah, th those are the two ones that stood out to me the most. I need to actually test the million tokens because I haven't been able to really play around with it. I'm waiting till OpenClaw gets its update so I can have 4.6 as my default model because right
Of
now it's
course.
still 4.5 and it's kind of hard coded into OpenClaw, so I can't update until I get the update from the actual software. But yeah, I need to actually test out the million tokens. But I'm looking at how good it is at agentic tool use and just how it can spin off sub agents, how it can spin off multiple parallel agents, and all of these kind of lend themselves. All of these features lend themselves to coding, and they're both. And when both Anthropic and OpenAI are going so hard into AI coding.
Yeah, indeed. And we should note that Opus 4.6 holds the number one spot on humanity's last exam, and also Terminal Bench 2.0. So yeah, definitely a solid model. Let's talk about the next release, which you already mentioned, GPT 5.3 Codex. So this is a post from Altman himself. We have best coding performances, 57% Sweetbench Pro, 76% Terminal Bench 2.0, 64% OS World, mid-task steerability and live updates during task, faster, less than half the tokens of 5.2 Codex for the same tasks.
Yeah.
Good computer use.
Yeah, even
So,
though it's a much faster, much less token usage for the same task. Like I've been playing with 5.3 codecs. I've been playing with Opus 4.6, and it is like basically completely different products. I
hmm,
send off the same task in Opus 4.6, and it does exactly what I would think. It kind of updates the relevant parts of my code base and tells me what it's doing along the way, and then it reports back in just, a few minutes. But like with the Codex app, I send off a task and I'm like, I have no clue what it's doing. And it's
hmm.
just sitting there for so long, reading every single file, like touching every single file. And at the very end, it comes back to me and says, like, oh, here's all of these files I've changed, and they somehow just work, but it just takes so much longer. It's much more of a black box feeling.
Interesting. Uh, and knowing what I know about you, that's certainly not your preference. You like to see, a little bit of the inner workings, right?
Yeah, and it's almost like a UI f- like flavoring. It's I like with the Codex UI, the app, the Codex app. They don't even show you the code unless you explicitly like click the button to show you the code. Whereas if I'm using Opus 4.6 in Cursor, it just feels much more familiar to me because it's an IDE and I've been using IDEs my whole life. And so I can actually see what's happening. I can see the code being changed. I don't know, I have to maybe get out of my comfort zone a little bit and just really understand that Codex doesn't want you really to see the code. Just go ahead and vibe code it and assume it's going to work at the end. But I also think like the time it takes, the difference in how slow it is kind of crazy, even with
Yeah.
these improvements.
I wonder how much trust factors into that. You kind of want to know the logic, the steps that the model is taking to understand how it gets to a conclusion. But maybe fast forward a couple of years and you just have inherent trust in these systems. And so that doesn't become as important as it is today for you.
Yeah. It just with Codex, it touches so many different files for every task. And I'm like, oh, you added 3 lines
Right.
of code and removed one. And what? I don't even know why that file's remotely related to what the task I gave you was. And yeah, it's weird.
So one of the most notable things here, at least to me, let me pull up this blog post. Here we go. So GPT 5.3 Codex is our first model that was
Yeah.
instrumental in creating itself. Now, this is certainly not self-improving AI like we like to talk about it, where the progress is like AI just constantly improving and iterating on itself 24/7. But it is interesting. It's notable that at least in the early stages of development, that it was, identifying its own bugs, which does accelerate the development process. So that to me stood out. I think that we'll see a lot more of that in releases to come this year.
Yeah, I mean this screams to me hints of self-improvement. I know you said it's not, but it's like maybe just starting to be.
Yeah.
It's still very much human prompted and they're reviewing all of the code, I assume. But ultimately, one day, probably pretty soon, you're going to be able to kick off an agent, a Codex agent, and just say, get us to 5.4. And it doesn't seem like we're that far away. If you remember Meter, METR,
Mm-hmm.
had their benchmark of how long can an agent confidently run, where it's like a 50% chance of success. And I think we're up to like 6.5 hours right now, which is wild. And it's like a complete like vertical line now in terms of improvement, in terms of how long these systems can autonomously run for.
Just like OpenClaw, GitHub stars. Well,
Do
uh,
you do you remember what Peter the analogy he used?
I do something about polls. I'm
Yeah.
forgetting certain details. Uh, so we're going to talk about Anthropic later in the show. The war between Anthropic and OpenAI seems to be heating up a little bit. What do you think? You think OpenAI is going to start slashing prices? Anthropic's Opus 4.6 a little bit more compute heavy, I'd imagine. So can they undercut them? by lowering prices and try to pull some market share?
Um, I think the competition is going to help consumers. It's going to help developers. It's gonna be beneficial for all of us, right? I mean, we're talking about two of the most competitive people on the planet, Dario, even though he's much more quiet about it. But after this week, seeing the Super Bowl ads that are coming out, which we'll talk about later, but and then Sam Altman, right? It's like one of the most competitive people on the planet, and so yeah, I mean they are vying for developer market share, and if that means making better products and probably reducing pricing, they're certainly going to do it.
Yeah.
It just by using these products, as I said, it just feels like Codex is churning through a lot more tokens. I don't actually know what's going on under
Oh,
the
okay.
hood, but it just feels that way.
Gotcha. All right. Well, Matt, we have a lot more to talk about in the news, but I believe our first guest is here. So let's go ahead and bring them on. Now, let me talk a little bit about this guest. So the biggest problem in AI that I feel like most people have never heard of is that messy, invisible kind of goulash between AI models and the chips that they run on. And yeah, goulash is my new favorite word, if you didn't know. But our next guest, he founded a company to help solve this problem. He might use different words. Tim Davis, co-founder and president of Modular AI, a company building software layer that removes hardware dependency traps, squeezes more out of performance, and helps AI products actually make money. Tim, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Nick and Matt, thank you for having me. It's great to be on here.
Hey,
Yeah,
good
it's a
to meet you.
pleasure. So I'm hoping that you can do a slightly better job than I did of explaining the problem that you all are solving over there at Modular.
Yeah, sure. I mean, really, what we're building is sort of you can think of it as like a hypervisor for compute. And, what does that mean? Really, our goal is to abstract away the hardware and make it seamless for people to be able to execute, AI programs across any type of silicon. Um, I guess in my now almost decade in AI, when you talk to AI engineers, no one says to you when they start, "Oh, I must use this type of hardware." Usually, what it starts with is, someone's building something, they have some accuracy or latency or cost measurement for their application, um, and additionally throughput. And so the idea that the hardware is front and center actually isn't true. And so really what we're doing is saying, hey, look, if we could build software that enables you to scale not only in the data center but also out to the edge, and have a single unified platform, it frees. Really frees any lock-in that you have to any single piece of silicon. And
And
I
Tim, when
think
I hear the lock-in, I'm hearing CUDA, right?
right.
Is that like tell us how this relates to competes with CUDA?
Yeah, I think we look at ourselves as we want to make hardware more programmable and more accessible, right? And today, NVIDIA has done an incredible job. It has an enormous penetration in the data center. But I think if you look at the market today, we can talk about this later too. Pretty much every hyperscaler at this point is building their own silicon. Google's building TPUs, AWS is building Inferentia. There's AMD silicon out there. There's obviously NVIDIA silicon, and then separately from that, at the edge. You have the Android ecosystem. It's very fragmented on the hardware side. You also obviously have Apple Silicon, and so the idea that as a developer, if you want to be able to say, "Hey, look, I want to execute models not only on NVIDIA, to your point, Matt, with CUDA, but also on other types of silicon. How can I do that easily?" And today, that requires an enormous amount of rewriting to do it. And so, what our infrastructure essentially enables you to do is to execute very large models, DeepSeek and all the other models that you hear about. And we've essentially built an abstraction layer so you can easily go from NVIDIA to AMD to Google TPUs and others. And that's really the vision behind the platform.
And who is buying this? Or is it typically the frontier model companies? Is it the anybody who's doing training, RL? Like who's buying your software?
Yeah, today it's really today we're inference focused. So we tend to work with sophisticated companies, and certainly even at my time at Google, typically how it works is Google obviously made an early bet on TPUs, so they saw the future. But really, most people start by saying, "Hey, look, I want to build something." They take a model, they go up to the cloud, they build cloud infrastructure, and then very quickly they realize, "Wow, this is expensive." Um, It's expensive to run inference. Inference essentially, the old saying we used to have at Google was training scales to the size of your research team, but inference scales to the size of your user base. And so very quickly, as you start to scale, you realize GPUs and particularly the green giants GPUs are expensive. And if you can essentially begin to look at more options, just like we saw with like the multi-cloud movement, no one wants to say that they're locked to any single cloud. We're still very early in sort of the AI super cycle. And so I think the way we think about it is, hey, look, there's one incredible provider today. There is absolutely going to be a proliferation of hardware. It's already happening. And so the customers that we work with and the large scale enterprises that we work with already see that too. And they don't want to be locked to one platform. We want our software to be incredible on NVIDIA's silicon, but we also want it to be incredible on other types too, so that essentially people can move across it. So today, if you think about who is our target customer, who does this resonate with? Very sophisticated AI labs, definitely. All the Gen AI startups who are pushing the frontier of very large scale deployments. And so that's sort of who are really rolling out our software today. And then over time, our goal is obviously to make it much more accessible. I think all the AI coding infrastructure makes that even easier today than it ever has. And so, yeah, that's how you should think about who uses us.
Gotcha. So what does the team look like today? I know you all raised a round recently. Where are you located? Where are you building this company? Walk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm actually Australian, but I've been living in California now for 15 years. My co-founder and I, Chris Latner, he is an incredible engineer. He built LLVM. He wrote the Swift programming language at Apple. We met together at Google, where we'd been working on AI infrastructure back in 2017. So the company is based out of California. Most of the employees are across the United States. We do have some folks in Europe as well. And so, yeah, we're a somewhat distributed team, but also we do have a big presence in California. And there's a lot of excitement around this opportunity to essentially enable, the vision of the future of super intelligence isn't going to exist just in a data center. It's absolutely going to go out to the edge. I actually helped, co-create and found a lot of the edge infrastructure when I was at Google back in 2016, 2017. And so, we're only just beginning to realize this vision. I think I watched your episode on OpenClaw, and these were discussions we were having way back in 2016, 2017. As our intelligence becomes cheaper, what does it mean for the world? What does it mean for access to AI? So,
Tim, I very much agree, and I've been talking about this for a while, that it seems like a lot of the compute, or at least portions of the compute stack, are going to be pushed out to the edge. I want to talk a little bit more about that, why you believe that, which parts of let's just say a general consumer like myself of AI, which parts of my usage are going to be needing a cloud inference versus something I can run on a local device.
Yeah, I mean, when we created a piece of infrastructure called TensorFlow Lite back at Google, the thesis was, look, we need low latency, privacy sensitive AI that's capable of running where you are, right? It will always be more, just because you feed these models a significant amount of data. If you can do that where you are always, they can become more relevant, they can become more context aware, they can become more personalized to you. So that was the thesis back then. This led to essentially Google Translate and a lot of the translation related use cases that happen on device. You saw that with the evolution of things like Waymo, and obviously the autonomous car movement. You can't go to the server if you're flying down a freeway at 60 miles an hour, and be like, oh, just wait for the 3-second response rate, right? You need it to be instant.
Yeah.
And so what we've seen, and it's incredible to me and exciting that that a solo developer in Austria was able to ship something that Apple hasn't been able to achieve in 15 years, frankly. And essentially create a personalized employee on your local machine. And I think what's exciting about it is, we essentially started to create, these very intelligent models. I think increasingly they are being distilled down into smaller artifacts that are becoming more intelligent. And I think that will only continue to proliferate. But then we gave it access to tools, and we gave it access to data sources and services, and then it can just write its own software. And so, to me, it really validates this sort of digital human emulator thesis where an agent can operate your computer, it can operate messages, it can operate the browser. It's not really a chatbot; it acts more as a personal assistant.
Yeah,
And so I
but
think,
Tim,
yeah, sure.
in the OpenClaw example, like I have
Mhm.
OpenClaw running on a machine right next to me,
Sure.
but the inference is still being piped out
Yeah.
to Anthropic or OpenAI. And I want to, just to be clear, I really want to run these models locally that are capable enough to do a lot of the workloads I have in mind, but they're not there yet. So
Sure.
even though it is running locally, it is still putting the inference off to the cloud. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So the way I look at it is the models you're using today will be the dumbest models you'll ever use,
Hmm.
right? Um, it literally every day from here, it's only going to get better. And so I think, for edge-based compute, and there's a lot of research in this area, and there's a lot of research even at Google, you essentially want to be able to distill these large models down into smaller and smaller corpuses. And I think there's a huge amount of work being done in the AI community for this. It's not a matter of, if it's going to happen, it's a matter of when it is going to happen. And how much intelligence do you actually need close to you to do most of the things you want to do, right? I would argue, and you're already seeing this from the large model labs, they're beginning to, roll out features like how much thinking time do you need for each problem, right? And so what's actually trying to happen is they're trying to cohort out your queries to say, is this a complex query where we need to devote more compute time, or is this a simple query and we can just quickly defer it off to, a smaller model that's faster and cheaper, right? And so an OpenClaw is not there yet; it's very early. But to me, you look for the patterns. You look for we have a local agent, we have persistent memory, we have things like full system access, and we have this messaging first UI, which is the sort of, your question, Matt, was around for an everyday person using AI. That's really becoming the default interface, right? Now, is there a problem with we need to make local AI even smarter? Absolutely. Are we going to get there? Absolutely. And you've already begun to see this with, and I would encourage and I do this regularly, encourage the AI community to invest more here. I think actually Google's doing a wonderful job open sourcing models like Gemma that are available. They have the nano versions that are smaller on your local machine. But, I just wish that more of the frontier labs would actually open source some of this stuff too, so that then we can all benefit from it.
So Tim, you mentioned that OpenClaw was able to do something that the big tech wasn't. We talked about this last week
Yeah.
with Peter specifically, and the working thesis here, I guess, is that like there's just too much at stake, right? Like the stakes are high for a company like Apple to roll this out and run into all kind of security issues. Do you think that's the reason that they kind of missed the boat on this, or is there something else at play?
I mean, look, I worked at a big tech company for 8 years. There's a lot of challenges, to be honest. There's a lot of organizational challenges. How fast can you ship? How fast do you want to adopt new infrastructure? There's always a thesis of should we build this ourselves or do we let the broader community, do this stuff? I think security has always been, and I don't have any Apple connection, but as a consumer of their products, which are wonderful, security has always been very top of mind for Apple, right? Like they've always resisted ads, they have always resisted mining your data, and so as a result, for them, I can certainly see, why there's been challenges. I think though that back to this point, it's a pattern. OpenClaw has sort of unlocked the broader pattern though, and I think Apple, Google, Microsoft, they're all trying to do this. If you look back at when Microsoft tried to launch Copilot on the desktop, and everyone freaked out, like this thing's reading it's looking at my screen and it's reading everything, and but the reality is, it's amazing that OpenClaw launches not through a large tech company, and everyone's like, "This is amazing!"
It
Like,
reminds me of that two-frame meme of HR. Like one of them
exactly.
says, "Hey, I have this thing," and the other one's like, "Oh, HR."
Exactly. And so, like, the big tech companies do it, and they are under obviously a lot of pressure. They have, enormous user bases. But it's wonderful to see how quickly, an open community was able to jump on top of it. And so, is open clause sort of the going to be the winner? Maybe not. I'm not sure. But it's a wonderful template for how fast people have been able to see what AI can do for them in a very quick way. And so, these sort of rapid product evolutions are, to your point, Matt, what get people excited about asking more of the question you're asking about, which is like, well, why isn't local models better on our machines? And then all of a sudden, there's, you supercharge the development community around the world to start saying, we want that to happen. Let's go all and invest in making that happen, right? And so that's very much how I see it. I think people will always want the best model. I think it's hilarious to me when you go and talk to developers in enterprises, and the model labs release all these different model versions, but everyone just defaults to the most powerful model, even
Yeah.
if you don't need it. And that's because fundamentally, I think most folk today have been, I think this is an interesting user experience pattern. People have been defaulted through the evolution of these model releases to always think that the higher the number, the better the model. So therefore, I should always use it. And so what you're beginning to see, both because of cost reasons, inference cost reasons, is the model labs are now beginning to abstract that away again. And so now you just have like, how much intelligence do you need for this query? Well, that's pretty difficult for a human to understand, right? Like, what actually are they what decisions are being made when I ask a question as to, does this get a lot of intelligence or does this get a little bit of intelligence? And so, it'll be interesting to see that evolution as we go forward.
So we have I want to better understand how you specifically, you as a consumer of artificial intelligence, what your tech stack looks like. What are you using frontier cloud-based models for? What are you using local models for, either
Yeah.
within the context of OpenClaw or not?
Yeah, so I played with OpenClaw. I mean, my security conscious brain is probably a little bit more conservative
Did you get a
than
Mac
maybe.
Mini?
I haven't got a Mac Mini. I have a Mac
Okay,
Pro. I have an M3.
There you go.
I'm sort of hanging out for the new M5. But yeah, I would say for me actually, I'm always I think one of the beautiful things, and what a time to be alive in terms of, you can just now always have software being written in the background for anything. Um, and that's pretty incredible, right? Like, that's how I think about it. So I actually developed, I'll probably open source it in the next few weeks, this infrastructure that I called Compound Loop. And what Compound Loop is, I've found in my experience with AI, is really what you want to orchestrate a lot of these models together, right? You want to be able to say, hey, look, Claude Opus is good at some things. OpenAI's Codex is good at some things. Gemini is good at some things. But I tell you what's great is when you battle them off against each other and get the collective benefit of all of them. And so I built a system that basically, on my local machine, so it accesses the cloud, but it also can access local models, and it actually does. And so what it does is, it's for coding, and it basically plans, it implements, it reviews, and it merges. And so the idea is, when you plan, you can say, here's a task I need done. I want both Claude and I want Codex to build plans, and then I want them to review each other's plans, and then I want them to merge that to the best version of the plan, right? So now you have an amazing plan. And then you say, now I want, and you can, all this is configurable, but then you can say, okay, cool. Well, now I want Claude to implement it, and then I want Gemini and Codex to review that implementation and be very critical of it. And so what you end up getting is, essentially an amazing outcome of, the best version of the implementation. And then, of course, you can just let it run. So you can just say, once you finish the task, go back to the plan, then do the next thing. And so it just keeps going. And so it's essentially running all day long.
But
And then,
I didn't hear any part of the stack that's local though.
yeah, so the local part actually is the best part. The local part is, I build a local using local embedding models. What I actually do is, I build because the token usage is very expensive. If you just, the way these models work is, you literally just throw your whole code base into the model. And so you're spending hundreds of thousands of millions of tokens constantly uploading everything to the server. So what you can actually do is, you can build local representations of your code base,
Mm.
that then is more context aware. And so the benefit of that is that then you only need to send to Claude and Codex and Gemini much smaller representations of your local system. And so why that benefits you is you get enormous benefits on token usage. I think my token usage is down probably 30x from what it was prior by being able to do some of this local computation without having to send everything constantly to the cloud. And that's a big deal.
Oh, that's fantastic, Tim. I would love if you open sourced that.
Yeah, I built this as just a fun side project, and then I was telling some of my friends about it, and they're like, "Dude, come on, can you
Yes,
please
please.
open source?" Like,
All right, well, Tim,
All right.
so I promise I will.
thank you. I really appreciate you joining the show today. Come back again. You can check out Modular at Modular on X and modular.com. Tim, this has been a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like really trying to figure out how to do more things locally. And I think the embeddings part, I've been experimenting with that. That's definitely something that I'm really looking to push to the edge. And more, I do believe these local models are going to continue to get better, faster, smaller, and you're almost going to have like a bunch of small local models doing very pointed tasks. And that's really what I'm excited about.
I think it's so inspiring to see all these people building now. It just feels like
Yeah.
there's a proliferation of builders out there. I mean, even on our team, Jonah spitting up software internally, you building a CRM for yourself. I mean, all this stuff has just become so accessible, and it's really just the beginning of it.
Yeah, maybe I'll end up open sourcing the CRM that I'm building.
I think you
But
should.
it's been a lot of fun testing out the new codex, testing out the new Opus. But for now, more importantly, we have to talk about Box, the sponsor of today's
That's
live
right.
show. Enterprises have huge amounts of super valuable data basically locked away inside documents and PDFs and other unstructured content, and most teams rely on slow manual workflows to get at it. And legacy extraction tools help a little bit, but they're expensive, they're hard to scale, and mostly just pull raw text without understanding what matters. But Nick, of course, we use Box Extract, and Box Extract changes that. It's an agentic solution from Box that securely pulls structured, high-value data from enterprise content at scale. We load up all of our documents inside Box.
You
It's
know what?
powered.
Sorry to interject here in the
Please.
middle of your read, but it's funny because early last year, we were all lamenting that we couldn't pull up certain things in our cloud storage, right? Trying to find a certain video that we recorded and published, trying to find a certain article that we had shared with each other, and then Box Extract comes around and it's like, oh yeah, that's exactly the solution to this hugely painful thing.
Yeah. And the best part is the day that a new model drops, a new frontier model, Box already had early access, already ran their own benchmarks against it, already implemented it in their system, and it just works. So they have all the leading models from Google, Anthropic, OpenAI, and more. And so instead of just extracting text, Box Extract understands document structure and meaning. The result is faster workflow automation, better content discovery, and quicker, more confident decision making. We use Box. We love Box. And this is actually a tool that helps us. And it really does move our business forward. So check it out. Link down below if you want to see how Box Extract works. And you can use it with Opus 4.6, which just came out. They ran their own benchmarks. Go check them out. We love Box. Link in the description.
Awesome. Time for our next guest, Matt.
Yes, sir.
We have Joseph Floyd, general partner at Emergence Capital. Really one of the most influential venture firms and enterprise SaaS, backing companies like ZoomInfo, Box, Salesforce, Zenbird, the list goes on and on, Zoom. Joseph, welcome back to the show.
Hey guys, awesome to be here.
Hey, Joe.
I guess I should
back.
call you Joe, right?
Yeah, please.
All right, Joe. Welcome
All right,
back.
so there was a lot of things that happened this week, Joe, and
Yeah.
I am especially excited to ask you about what the term that went around, SaaS apocalypse. A lot of the SaaS company public stocks really took a major hit this week. maybe some people tying it to Claude plugins being released, although I'm not sure. But I want to get your thoughts. Give us like the lay of the land. What happened this week first?
Yeah, first of all, I like the term disaster. I coined that one back in 2016.
Nice.
So let's make that one go viral.
Okay.
Trademarked.
So what happened this week is just a continuation of what's been happening for 2, 3 quarters, maybe the last year. So maybe I'll back up and give some context. Historically, software multiples have kind of been in that 7 to 8x range. If you're a stable public company, think Salesforce, ServiceNow, those types of companies. Over the past year, they're all down 35 to 40%. That's pretty major when you're talking about 200 to 300 billion market cap companies. So what if you break it down, they're still hitting their revenue targets. They're still hitting their net income targets. It's really just multiple compression. And so these companies that have traditionally traded at 7 to 8 times ARR are now trading at 4.5 to 5 times. And that's why you're seeing that 35 to 40% difference. Yes, revenue growth rates across the board have slowed down, but not to the same degree that they're getting punished in the markets. So this week is maybe just a continuation of that, and it's getting some headlines because you had it occur at the same time as Bitcoin, falling dramatically and gold and silver falling dramatically. So you've kind of got a few factors all kind of combining to make more news. So it's fascinating to watch, though.
So it's like you have the macro factors, but a lot of people are tying it to, well, SaaS is getting eaten by artificial intelligence, and they point to like Claude's plug into Excel and Word and all of these different products where Claude can essentially do a lot of the work.
Yep.
But like I don't know. It doesn't it's hard to tie that direct line. And maybe is it a function of capital moving towards what's most exciting right now, which is artificial intelligence and the Mag 7, which they're all kind of betting big on AI, whereas the SaaS companies maybe don't have that same kind of direct investment. What do you think?
I think that's part of it, right? So you've got OpenAI and Anthropic combined $1 trillion private, valuations, and they're growing faster than any software company in the history of the world has ever experienced. 0 to 10 billion of ARR in the case of Anthropic in just a few years, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think investors want to be in those names. And if you're a public software company and you can't prove that you have those AI tailwinds, then I don't think you're going to get the same impact. Now, what I see in my own personal or the Emergence portfolio, AI natives obviously adopted AI from the beginning. The kind of mid-sized growth companies, call it the ones in that 50 to 100 million of ARR, when ChatGPT came out, they were obviously behind the 8 ball. They've now started to really adopt AI in the same way as the AI natives. It just took them an extra, call it 12 to 18 months. The public companies are probably another 12 to 18 months behind that, right? They're still figuring out that ChatGPT exists, right? So I imagine in 12 to 18 months they're going to start to see some of these tailwinds. Like, people forget AI is the greatest deflationary force the world has ever seen. Like, most of these public software companies haven't seen any of the benefit yet. They've only seen people attacking them, startups attacking them, or Anthropic attacking them. Can you imagine when Salesforce is able to cut their R&D spend, which is probably, R&D and S&M are probably the two biggest expenses at a company like Salesforce. If engineers are 10x more effective, their net income margins will probably double, right? And so, like, what should that do for the stock? So I honestly look at this as a bit of an overreaction at the moment, where uh, all companies are kind of universally getting punished. And really, what should be happening is differentiation. You should look at a company like Adobe and say, yeah, generative AI is going to really negatively impact their business. That stock probably should be down from its highs. But you might also then look at a company, um, in maybe vertical software. I can't give the name that I want to give because we're investors, and I don't want to be pumping a name that I own. But like, look at a company in a vertical software where, that's if they're a core system of record and they have integrations between all of their different software stack. Like, you can't just vibe code that in a weekend,
Yeah.
right? So they all shouldn't get punished equally, which is what's happening right now.
Now, Joe, I had producer Alex, pull up this graphic from OpenAI Frontier, which was published this week. I don't know if you had a chance to see
Yeah.
this, but this is their vision for the future of SaaS. And I'm looking around and I'm seeing OpenAI owning every single layer above the system of record. And so this is kind of a continuation of what Satya Nadella said a year and a half ago, where the entire application layer is going to collapse down into agents, and agents are going to be layered on top of traditional CRUD databases. So like, first of all, what was your reaction to seeing this? And then like, do you believe in this future? Do you believe in the vision that OpenAI set forth?
So can we just say that this is probably the most self-serving graphic ever
Yeah, yeah,
created?
yeah.
A little bit.
So also if you believe Mark Benioff, then Agentforce is obviously going to take over everything anyways. So no, I'm kidding. I do believe that if you believe if you fast forward it out into the future, Satya's point around there's going to be databases and then there's going to be kind of AI on top is probably right, but that future vision is going to take a long time to come to fruition. So,
But when you say a long
and
time, give me like a time range. What are you
look,
thinking?
AI adoption is hampered simply by humans adopting it, right? It would be a lot faster if we weren't in the way, but that's the nature of companies, organizations, teams, etc. So it's gonna follow an adoption curve. If you put a gun in my head, I'd probably say in 10 years you might have that type of vision where it really is just base databases and there's no UX, agents are on top, and that's it. In the meantime, though, it's gonna be an evolution or a continuum along that spectrum. The real question is who's going to own that agent layer? Is it going to be just OpenAI and Anthropic and everyone else is dead? I don't think so. At least I'm not betting on that. Like I would bet that there are lots of current systems of record that will also be able to adopt and build best of breed agents because they simply have more context and understand your business or your workflows or your people better than a generic model company could.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
vice versa, there are going to be situations where OpenAI horizontally will be great, particularly for consumer use cases. So, I mean, I'm not saying that they're not going to win. They're going to win in their own realms for sure.
Joe, I want to share a data point of one. So I've been obviously playing around with OpenClaw quite a bit, and I had this idea for something I wanted to build. I wanted a personal CRM which really understood my emails, understood my calendars, who I was speaking with, and kind of building out this context about the relationships I have with them. I didn't even consider for a second going out to one of the existing CRMs. I just had my
Yeah.
OpenClaw just build it for me. Now,
Yeah.
with that said, like I'm quite technical, and it still wasn't easy for me to do. I'm still working out the kinks. So you're right, it's not quite there yet, but my inkling, my intuition was to just go straight through my OpenClaw Telegram. That's where I want all this information. I don't need a UI. I just want my bot to have all this context of the CRM.
Yeah. I'll give you two counterpoints because I used Bolt to vibe code a CRM for a company that was going through a fundraising, like specifically for them. It was pretty cool, and it only took me a few hours. If you're doing like a one-off use case like that and it's very personal, fantastic. Like that's what vibe coding is actually perfect for. If you're an organization, it's really tough because number one, thousands, tens of thousands of sales reps within companies are trained to use that one specific system. You lose all of that if you vibe coded your own. Number two, you lose all the security and compliance. And will eventually AI get to the point where that gets put in? Maybe. But I know of a company, I'm not going to say the name, where they tried to replace Lattice, which is a HR performance review system, with a vibe coded thing that one of their devs put together. Guess what happened? One little thing was wrong. People saw other people's reviews.
Oh,
They'll never vibe code another thing internally like that
Yeah.
again, right? And so, like, part of the reason why you choose a software vendor, and this is not a PC thing to say, but it's because you have a throat to choke. Like when something goes wrong, you have someone to blame, and you have someone who cares every day about security, compliance, permissions, making sure everything works perfectly. So again, like,
Accountability. Yeah.
yeah, you want to do a personal CRM, go for it. The only person that's going to get mad is you.
Yeah. I saw a meme yesterday that was like, if if you're a public company, are you going to go with Salesforce for your CRM or a vibe coded app, by a 13-year-old? Which, downplays the situation a little bit, but really that's what we're talking about. Like,
Yeah.
to your point, you need someone to talk to when things go wrong.
yeah. I
And
mean,
there's going to be, yeah,
Aaron Levy did an interview this week specifically talking about that. He's like, look, you can do a lot of amazing things with vibe coding, but ultimately, if you're looking at Ford, which is doing, millions of different transactions, and you need something that is going to be the same. You need it to have a team of humans behind it, as you said, to place the blame. right? And so I do agree with that, but I'm just wondering how long is that going to last? And then also maybe the team of like humans are actually agents and they're provided by OpenAI, and ultimately OpenAI is kind of the last line of defense. They are the ones you go and say like, hey, you messed up, and maybe they're kind of placing themselves in that position.
I hope that there are more winners than just OpenAI. Like I hope that there's one that focuses on security compliance. Like I hope each part of that agent stack is a different company. But I agree with you. I see that world coming. It's a question of timing.
What did you think about all the Claude or Anthropic versus OpenAI stuff this week? There were kind of two major things, right? So, Anthropic put out a series of ads that are going to be featured in the Super Bowl or played during the Super Bowl, very much going at the neck of OpenAI placing ads in ChatGPT. Sam Altman kind of clapped back and said, "Well, we have more users in Texas than you, free users in Texas than you have, right?" And then we have on the same exact day two releases from both of these companies, both frontier models, within 15 minutes of each other. What's your take on all of this?
One, it's like the most exciting time ever, right? Like just the fact that we get to benefit from all of these frontier things being dropped at the same time. It's still mind blowing to me. You also have all the Chinese models, by the way, which are going to drop models because of Lunar New Year. So like they're all going to be dropping their things. So like this month might be the coolest month ever. And then American Open Source with RC, you got to get a quick plug in, just dropped their largest open source American model. So yeah, it's super exciting. Specifically on the spat, I'll call it. First of all, the ads are funny. I don't know if you guys watched them all,
They're good.
but yeah,
They're
they're
very good.
clever. They're clever. And they hit the point. Like I think it's a terrible idea to have ads in the free version of ChatGPT, especially because everyone like they're going to have 10 other competitors who don't do that. So consumers are going to have choice, and I think they're kind of sabotaging themselves a little bit. But
Interesting.
I love the fact that they're poking fun at each other. I think it's awesome.
Yeah,
I,
I think like if I'm to kind of put myself in OpenAI's shoes right now, they're taking the Google and the Meta approach where they want to hit the broadest audience possible. Not everybody is going to be able to afford a subscription, even the $8 subscription to
yeah,
ChatGPT. And so they're saying, well, Anthropic, you're great. You're saying we're not going to do anything with ad supported anything, but that's kind of a luxury mindset to have. That's a privileged mindset to have, and we want to offer our services, ChatGPT, to the entire world, regardless of if they can afford that subscription or not. And the method in which to do that is going to be advertising subsidized.
Yeah.
yeah, it makes sense. The reason why they do it though, Anthropic has a multi-billion-dollar cash flow machine in their API usage, right? Google has a much larger one in their core business of search. And OpenAI doesn't have anything. Like they actually have to start making money off of ChatGPT beyond just subscriptions if they want to keep making investors happy.
Yeah. I think that the timing of this was perfect and pretty brilliant maneuver by Anthropic. I think Sam used the word dishonest, and whether or not you want to say that, that's up to him. But this is creating kind of a false impression in millions of Americans' minds, especially when they run on the Super Bowl, of like
Yep.
what ads are actually going to be in ChatGPT. Because look, OpenAI and Sam Altman, they're not dumb. They're not going to create the worst version of ads in ChatGPT. They're not going to look like this. This would destroy their user experience. So I think it's pretty clever. I think it's pretty tactical. How realistic and accurate it is another discussion.
Yeah. Aren't all ads dishonest in some way, shape, or
Yeah,
form,
totally.
right? So,
Yeah,
Yeah,
um,
I think like the Sam Altman's kind of counter argument is that they are not going to let ads influence the actual results. They're just going to place a like auxiliary advertising
yeah, but
next to the result, but still it's influencing the result. I do
yeah,
believe. I don't want to see ads, to be clear, but I can also afford to pay those subscriptions not to.
yeah,
right.
fair point. So, what I think is going to be interesting at the Super Bowl is just what other AI ads are there going to
Oh
be?
my God, it's going
Because
to be
this has
like
got to be
80%.
Yeah, this is going to be the year. So hopefully some of them are clever, funny, and aren't quite as maybe targeting each other and just like what can we do for humanity, right? So I'll give a quick plug. One of my companies is doing a Super Bowl ad. I think it might be the first Super. It's not actually. Um, Sorry,
Can
we
you?
had one prior Super Bowl ad. This is the second time an emergence company is doing a Super Bowl ad. They're doing a ah this is going out live, so I'm kind of stealing their thunder, but they um they hired Matthew Broderick to do a Ferris Bueller's Day Off work with by leveraging, he leverages AI and he doesn't have to work. And it's like a clever hopefully touches on millennials childhood moments, and I'm really excited to see it air and hope
Can,
folks love it.
can you share which company it is?
The company is GenSpark. It is
Oh yeah, I was gonna
yeah.
say yeah, awesome. I saw they were running a Super Bowl ad. Yeah.
Yeah, they're obviously head to head with Anthropic's co-work, and we are super excited for the world to see the company for the first time.
Yeah, I need to test out GenSpark more than I have.
Please do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's
Um,
uh let's talk about one of your other investments. This news just broke recently. Bedrock Robotics. Walk us through that play.
Yeah, Bedrock is super cool. It's my partner Jake led that investment. It is basically Waymo for heavy construction equipment. So imagine self-driving excavators going around a construction site or dump trucks, lining up and without drivers. And the advantage right now is you can run them 24/7. So instead of having one shift that only uses the heavy equipment during the day, they can run at night. And this is pretty big because um, a lot of the cost is in renting this equipment. And if you're only getting one third utilization, that's that's a lot of extra cost that you're kind of going to waste. So the company has a bright future. We've actually seen them, live in production working, and they're using existing Caterpillar equipment. They're using existing drivers to train on, and it's really fascinating to watch.
what's the reason that they wouldn't, like a construction company wouldn't just have three shifts of humans?
So in other countries they do, but in America we really don't. And maybe it's just kind of the culture or whatnot. But you could, you absolutely could. I think what they're also proving though is you have, uh, in theory, like the automated versions have incredible safety records because
Yeah.
they have cameras everywhere. There's kind of less liability, and then just the fact that they will keep working 24/7.
Yeah, and then I think also there's this notion of if there are multiple heavy machines all working in unison and coordinating with each other, that's even going to increase safety even further.
Yeah, in particular, it's like the excavator can scoop up the dirt, put it in the dump truck. As soon as that dump truck's full, the next one lines up, and it kind of just keeps everything kind of in sync. Yeah, and I think you're right. The combination of all their cameras in conjunction can be a little bit safer as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as a firm that's kind of built its reputation on cloud enterprise, it looks like you're going through a little bit of a transition. How are you thinking, just like holistically about the landscape? Like how are you thinking about placing these bets?
It's a great question. Truthfully, I wouldn't even say it's a transition. Like I think the transition's happened.
Yeah.
I go on the record all the time saying software is dead. Like we have to completely burn the bridges and say that we are. Actually, I think the phrase is burn the boats. So we have to burn the boats.
Burn it all down.
Yeah, burn everything. I'm
Yeah.
denarius. Um, and and it really is about investing in this AI future. And part of that means we have to open our scope to things that we wouldn't have traditionally considered. Something like Bedrock that uses hardware. Something like physical intelligence, which is building a foundation model for robotics. Like these types of investments wouldn't have been Emergence's sweet spot 10 years ago. But the traditional software model is simply dead. You can't ever hope to hire hundreds of sales reps and sell traditional software and grow 40% a year for 10 years. Like that model simply won't work anymore.
Yeah. Are you seeing more hardware companies come and pitch you? It just seems like we're as let's say software gets quote unquote solved, we're going to actually need more and more hardware. And I know Elon just talked about how difficult hardware is, and as software gets solved, people are going to try more and more hardware plays. But are you seeing that?
Yeah, we are definitely getting pitched more hardware. We're getting pitched more biotech. I just think that AI is going to impact all of these different areas. And so the fun part for us is to think, how can we bring what we know about business models, what we know about AI to different different industries and different kind of modalities. If you think about hardware and biotech being things that we traditionally never would have looked at.
Joe, thank you so much for joining us again. Really appreciate it. As always, come on back whenever. Check him out on X at the Joe Floyd, at Emergence Cap and mcap.com. If you are a fantastic founder, go pitch Joe. Go tell him what you're building.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
See ya.
Forgot to ask when poker night is.
All right, hold on. We fixing our screens right now. Joe's just frozen there looking at us. There we go.
We can get away with anything now. All right. Well, let's talk about a couple more stories. Actually, for those who haven't seen these Anthropic ads, I wouldn't mind showing one. They are highly entertaining. Alex,
Yeah,
can you pull one of those up?
I'll create a plan that focuses on aesthetic strength training. But confidence isn't just built in the gym.
Can you pause for just a
Boost Max,
second?
the insoles that add one
This is
vertical
like-
inch of height.
I mean, did they intentionally get actors that just kind of look slightly off? Not like fully off, but if you've seen the series of these 4 ads, every single one of the actors that are meant to play ChatGPT, they all look slightly off. Right?
Matt,
Just
that's
like
what
the
you call
uncanny
method
valley
acting.
feeling.
You have to embrace the LLM.
I know, and it's just a right amount of pause too, right? Just before they give you the answer. All right, Alex, go ahead, play, please.
Hey, can I get a 6-pack quickly?
There it is.
Perfect. That is a clear and achievable goal. Would you like me to tailor a personalized workout plan?
Yes.
So helpful.
Perfect. Let me personalize this for you. Let's start with your age, weight, and height. Whenever you're ready.
5'7", 23 years old, 140 pounds.
Got it. I'll create a plan that focuses on aesthetic strength training. But confidence isn't just built in the gym. Try
The
Step
tone of
Boost
the
Max,
voice
the
changes.
insoles that add one vertical inch of height and help short
Perfect.
kings stand tall.
What?
Use code HeightMaxing10 for big discounts.
Oh, and of course they use the incredible Dr. Dre beat from
Yeah.
What's the Difference?
It's so good.
But yeah, it's so subtle how they did it. First, obviously, very subtly kind of uncanny valley actor. And then also when the ad actually starts, right? The voice changes just so subtly, and it's so effective.
They really do
It's true or
encapsulate.
not.
Yeah, they do really encapsulate that experience so well. And I think the counter positioning that Anthropic is doing is very smart.
Yeah.
Setting themselves up to be the anti-ad platform, especially on the stage of the Super Bowl, is probably going to win a lot of hearts.
Yeah, I mean, they've been doing a lot of really smart advertising in their positioning, and they are kind of positioning themselves to be the premier artificial intelligence, the luxury artificial intelligence, and even with the influencers that they've been going after, it's very much like high intellect, sitting, ideating with your artificial intelligence. It's not the mainstream AI, it's the kind of the aspirational AI, and that's the positioning they're going for. And ChatGPT is very much going for we want everybody to use it.
I think that's exactly right. Yeah, kind of the more the academic feel.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're going to be eating their own words eventually. They have a imminent IPO coming up. We're talking about a large portion of the population that might not feel like their tools are accessible because of the price point. There might not be a plan that's designed for someone who's a little bit more cost conscious.
Yeah.
I think once they IPO, they're going to be experiencing a little bit of that pressure.
But
So we'll see how this
interesting
plays
thing
out.
Also, Nick, if you think about it, Anthropic is very much known for focusing almost entirely on enterprise. And so these ads are tailored for consumer.
Oh,
Like,
100%.
they're going after the consumer audience, but they really don't have much market share on the consumer side. So it's almost like they're doing this mental positioning to influence potential enterprise buyers, but doing so through the lens of a consumer play. It's very interesting.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. I don't actually know a lot of people that use individuals that use Claude. I certainly know of a couple who prefer it, but a lot of folks are either developers or working at those bigger companies.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Let's bring the next guest on.
Oh yeah. Here we go. Oh, let me introduce
We're gonna give you a
this
quick
guest
intro, Carina.
before we bring her on. So this next guest is a special guest. She is not only a Rhodes Scholar, she's a first-generation college graduate and a mathematics prodigy. She earned dual degrees in math and physics from MIT in just 3 years. And then she left Stanford to start her company, Axiom. And she's going to explain what Axiom does, but in a quick sentence, let me give it my best shot. They are building a self-improving, super intelligent reasoner, and they're starting with an AI mathematician. So Carina, welcome to the show. So glad to have you here.
Hey, Carina.
Hi, Matt. Hi, Nick. How are you?
Doing quite
Doing
well.
very well.
So tell us a little bit about your background and why you decided to start this company.
Yeah, 100%. Hi, everyone. I'm Carina. I'm founder and CEO of Axiom. I kind of was trained as a mathematician growing up, first doing Math Olympiad. And then when I was at MIT, kind of, stumbled into research math, later stumbled into AI. At Axiom, we believe in the power of math and code. We think math is code and code is math. And by combining verification with generation, we can build a really strong reasoning engine that can kind of self-improve and start with math to all the applications of math, like verification.
So when did you first realize that you had kind of fallen in love with math and that this was going to become a career?
Yeah, so I grew up in Asia, and we have those kind of math tutorials. When I was a kid, I realized that it's really interesting for a real world problem to be translated to the mathematical formulation. I remember the typical problem is two trains crossing each other, and how long the trains are, and estimate how many seconds that's gonna be passing through. And I think the kind of turning real world into math, and then but also when solving math, then solving a real world scenario is something that really draws to my interest.
And I want to learn a little bit more about something you said, which is math is code and code is math. Can you explain for somebody who maybe is not as in the weeds on the math side or the coding side, what does that actually mean?
Yeah, I think that human mathematicians for centuries have been doing reasoning in natural language, in, for example, English or French or German. Um, because of the Curry-Howard correspondence, which is a technical term that introduced the concept of proof as program, you can actually turn mathematical proofs into a formal language called Lean, L-E-A-N. And Lean is this family of theorem proving formal languages. It is both, in the computer science analogy, a programming language like C, and, for example, the GCC compiler that self-verifies. So the idea of turning natural language math into a more structured code, and by the way, you can write AutoGrad in Lean. It is also a functional programming language. We can see the incredible gain of, for example, reinforcement learning on coding, because it's a verifiable domain applied to also formal math. And in turn, you can also use Lean, for example, to verify code. So this kind of forms a very interesting flywheel of generation and verification.
So wait, I for me who's doing a bunch of vibe coding, I could use Lean to verify my code. What does that actually look like?
That's right. So generation means that you're given a problem and you solve it by a computer program. And verification is you can have a Lean program that prove that the computer program you just wrote as a solution, that function satisfies the problem statement. So in a way, you can actually do verified generation, which is code with proof. It is really fascinating to see actually this sort of specification-based programming applied in various industries, from mission critical domains to other lower stake domains, but still human validation is a bottleneck. I think that's going to be the future, from generative AI to verified AI.
So tell us
And
a little bit about, oh, go ahead, Matt.
no, please, please.
I'm just curious about where you are in the company building process. So you started this recently, you got funding recently. What does the team look like today? Where are you building the company?
Yeah, so Axiom just came out of stealth, I think last October. We actually started in middle of July, the day of the International Math Olympiad. That's the birth date of the company.
Nice.
We're currently about 20 people. We're in downtown Palo Alto, and it's been really exciting 6 to 7 months. In the short period of time where we're kind of seeing a lot of other players starting years before us. I think kind of Google started exploring this in 2016, and DeepMind, then kind of started the focus effort in 2021, and other kind of incumbent competitors 2 years before us. And we're just, this underdog, a really small group trying to catch up. But I mean, last December in the hardest real world math test, the Putnam exam, that the median score is usually 0, and there has only been 5 humans ever getting a perfect score. Axiom Prover, we actually got a perfect score, the 6th perfect score in humanities history on Putnam exam.
Incredible.
Yeah.
What do you attribute that to? How are you able to make so much progress in so little time?
It's a really, really hard problem, which is, both bad news and good news. Talents love hard problems. They're really excited by this stubborn technical challenge. So Lean, for example, has a data scarcity problem. The amount of Lean data online in tokens count is probably 100,000 times smaller than, say, the token count of Python. So if you are trying to do AI in a domain with not much data, that's the difficult co-star problem. There are a lot of other challenges, such as Lean itself has various engineering kind of bottlenecks. But this really attracts kind of a mission-aligned small startup team to try to attack it.
Yeah, I've read that you have attracted some very senior tenured mathematicians from universities. And is that how you're able to do that? How you're able to pull people away just because the problem is so difficult and so meaty?
Yeah, we're really excited to have really strong mathematicians like Professor Ken Ono, who I think kind of stepped down from his vice provost role at the University of Virginia to join a Palo Alto startup. I know Ken for about 5 years. I know him since college freshman year. I was actually put on the wait list of his very prestigious summer research program because I couldn't get in. He's such a big deal, and he has mentored so many great young mathematicians. I think he is obviously very much aligned with the mission of making mathematical breakthroughs and discoveries. And there are a lot of other amazing machine learning talents that we have, mostly coming from one of the big tech frontier lab places. They're also very drawn to the problem. And they're also excited, I think, about the interdisciplinary kind of working with mathematicians and working with people who are in code generation and also AI, these kind of 3 fields coming together.
And Carina, as somebody who's kind of on the consumer side of artificial intelligence, how does the work you're doing translate into practical applications, something that maybe our viewers will actually see and use day to day?
Yeah, 100%. So I think that people are kind of seeing that the coding capability has increased dramatically in the last year, at least. It really has changed a lot of professionals' life. So people can write less code. The thing is, as we have so much kind of AI-generated software code, review becomes like a problem in certain cases where you really cannot miss any edge case, right? Like the sort of, testing by input-output pairs does not give you enough confidence. You really need to make sure that all the edge cases are covered. And there are engineers in those domains whose life have not been changed by AI because, it's so mission critical that they have to give up a significant amount of AI in the workflow because they just can't trust the output. We want to make AI perfect every time in these domains that really matter. We want to start from the mission critical ones to some lower stakes one where we really still appreciate the instant deployment of code. And I think if you like believe in Dono News kind of in the 1980s, literate programming, being able to reason in natural language and then have code being directly shipped into deployment. I think that's a future that currently we are building for, and it's working in some other, labs for front end, but not so much for back end and whole distributed system. We really believe that formal math can extend to this code verification capability, say apply to hardware, software, engineering, and more.
And so as you think about continuously improving AI's capability in math and coding, do you believe that these math and coding are the language of AGI? And maybe also define what your definition is of AGI.
Yeah, I think the concept of AGI or ASI, I mean, it's a beautiful term. It kind of encompasses the dream of as humanity evolves, we can create newer and newer abstractions for jobs and interesting pursuits to be easier and easier. I mean, if you're like a programmer in the past, you will be kind of like punching those like cards, right? And then like you will also, for example, be, digging into compiler machine code. You wouldn't be able to enjoy, say, the abstraction of Python, and certainly not today's vibe coding. The dream is to push it forward for mathematics and then extending to the other domains where verification really matters. In the future, maybe where optimization really matters. In our view, I think it's really good to have verifiable rewards when kind of training AI system. The idea is really to start with math. We believe that math reasoning is a true reasoning layer of AGI. And then from math to code, which then kind of allows you to run a lot of things at the software stack. And then from code to real world, which also has verifiable reward, like physics, real world physics. I drop an egg, like it will give me some sort of verification back. And from code, you can run like real world experiments and then push into everything else in that order: math, code, real world, and everything else. That's kind of how we think the order of a very humble attempt to try to shoot for AGI or super intelligence.
Interesting. So is AI at this point becoming better at math than the best mathematicians in the world, or are we not quite there?
I think it's really interesting to consider the problem, because what's difficult for humans and what's difficult for AI could be very different. That's actually an opportunity. If you think about it, right? If they are like entirely the same, then it will be some sort of human or AI competition. Because of this difference, you actually have a zigzagging opportunity of AI and human collaboration. In fact, a lot of mathematicians are doing work with AI, like a collaborator. Axiom Prover recently, I think we're going to get to there in a moment, announced a batch of research conjectures solved end to end, from English natural language output to thousands of lean code, thousands of lines of lean code, which is self-verified. I think this is the first instance of an automated proof generated end to end at the research level from English to lean, which have the self-verification property.
And what is the kind of that math that has been really difficult to attain for you and for the AI industry so far? Like, what is that kind of shining light on the hill that you're all going towards? The North Star of like, once we solve that, we know we've made it.
For Axiom, which is a fast-growing early startup, the goalpost keeps changing. When we started, we thought that it was just not possible to do formal math well on, say, an Olympiad like Putnam exam. We actually, we have internal betting markets. We predicted our AI to get, 4 problems out of 12 problems at this year's Putnam, because there are rumor mills of, in the past, some others have attempted and gotten 0. My personal score on Putnam is not, it's not even 1/3 of our AI, which is a perfect score. Wow. So okay, well, that's the first goal, right? We cleared the hardest AI math competition. And then we were like, okay, the North Star must be research. Let's have some theory building domains like algebraic number theory, algebraic geometry, commutative algebra. Let's try to like solve some parts of them, maybe with humans hybridly. And then now it's end to end. So we are kind of constantly challenging ourselves, and we definitely intend to push further. It's a very, very young company. It's only 7 months old.
And Carina, as you think about the ability for AI to, I'm just going to use the phrase, discover new math, right? Then I start to think about self-improving. self-improving artificial intelligence. Like
Right.
what are your thoughts there? Are we really far away still? Does it feel like if we come up with an improvement on the transformer, like is that right around the corner? What do you think?
I think that there are a few domains where you are closest to the dream of self-improving AI. And I think math and code are such domains. In fact, in math, for example, if you think about a conjecture, a system, a model that's really good at coming up with harder and harder math problems to challenge the proving AI, that conjecturing and proving actually forms a self-play loop. There are obviously, you can conduct more systematic attack at the goal of self-improving AI. And we intend to do so from the domain of math and then extending to other domains as well.
This is quite a dilemma. Historically, companies would be working at a problem or working towards a North Star for 5 years, 10 years. Like this was a long-term pursuit, right? And you're talking about being several months old and already adjusting course. It's a very interesting phenomenon. How do you keep the team focused when the goalpost is changing so often? Is it just about addressing that next largest problem?
Right. Goalpost is changing, but it's one straight line. We just go deeper and deeper. So we kind of want to push on the core technology. The company's DNA is math. That's not changing. On this line, on this journey, we will see a few, best first, best second markets, and we fully intend to build out like go-to-market engine with applied subject matter experts to tackle those problems as well. But the core capability, and that's our deep technical mode, we fully plan to kind of deepen it. I also think it's kind of I would say that's Axiom speed. It actually takes other team 2 years and 2 years and a half to get to say the IMO, and it took us like half a year. So we really need to raise the standard even higher for ourselves. What else can we do? And just build a larger team, have more resources, and try to attack some of these applied problems that also will, I think, revolutionize a lot of those industries. And that's very, very exciting to see beyond these pure mathematics breakthroughs.
And how are you thinking about commercializing what you're building?
Yeah, I think we really think that verification is a good first market. We have seen, for example, the problem of verification being challenging for engineers in hardware and software. We have actually seen other big companies spending 3 years, 5 years trying to formalize some part of their product in their improving code. I think famously hundreds and thousands of their improving code by some human formal verification experts. That's very, very hard to scale. And I think the timeline can also be compressed. For these engineers, their life have not been fully changed by the power of generative AI. We need verified generation to attack those kind of use cases as well.
Who is actually buying Axiom?
Axiom is in terms of Axiom's technology.
Your product, yes, not the company.
Right. It's too very early to think about that. I think
Eventually.
that, for example, large enterprises that are working on problems, especially serving customers that need provable guarantee. Specifically, for example, there are code verification problems in the chip industry. There are code verification problems in like large enterprise software, and there are like also code verification problems if you think about it in say certain engineering domains, even civil engineering. There are a lot of them, and also other mission critical domains as well. We've been hearing more and more use cases in cryptography. We have been hearing more and more use cases from say legacy code, migration, code update. We have seen a lot of these customers coming to us saying that, hey, this wasn't possible before, but because of the formal math, it is now possible, and we truly want to explore that.
Yeah, I think you said it right. Mission critical use cases, especially those in which a single mistake is going to be catastrophic.
Yeah.
Maybe insurance, anything in the health world,
Right.
anything where there's human lives at stake. That is where you're seeing the most adoption.
Right. I think there
And
are both value in kind of really catching these catastrophic, if overlooked edge cases, and also value in trusting that all the edge cases are covered because that currently blocks generative AI deployment.
yeah.
You
Carina, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, just one other question. There's been a lot in the news recently about world models, especially in the last 6 months. I'm curious, does math help us get closer to a world where we're creating true world models, or is that a separate problem?
I think that the kind of ideas coming from the word model literature are very kind of inspiring to us as well. We do have part of the team at Axiom that were part of the code word model, 32 billion parameters model when they were at Meta. So we have that team working here. We have people exploring kind of like a mass word model by kind of training on graphs. That's kind of the AI for mathematical discovery branch at Axiom that's different from the formal theorem proving. We use a lot of these ideas and we think that math is just a sandbox for reality. If you want to build a word model, actually math is a really good domain to start as well.
Awesome. Well,
Great.
Carina, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. I know you have a heart out, so check her out at Carina L. Hong on X, at Axiom Math AI, and AxiomMath.ai. Carina, thanks for all your great work, and definitely gonna keep an eye.
Thanks so much. Check out our
Right.
recent papers. See you.
Thank you, Carina.
Thank
See ya.
you.
All right.
It was fun. A lot of people are focusing on math these days. We just had Tutor from Harmonic on the show.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so
We forgot to
interesting.
talk to her about that, actually.
Yeah, well, we'll have to have her on again next
Have to have,
time just
yep.
because I know she had a pretty hard out right now. But yeah, it is interesting, and I think everybody is kind of surprised every time like one of the AI models gets gold at IMO or the AirDosh problem. It just gets like a handful of them get solved in a 2 week period, and now we have formal proofs for a lot of this. It's very exciting because all of this, as I brought up, it really does feel like the path towards self-improving AI.
Yeah. As Joe said, this is going to be an exciting year in AI. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of reasons for that. It feels like the pace is picking up. It feels like all these models are getting more sophisticated. It feels like we're starting to get close to a point where there is self-improvement. It's going to be a good year.
Yeah. Well, that's our show for today. A bit shorter, but we had some great guests. I want to thank our guest, Tim Davis, president and co-founder of Modular, Joe Floyd, general partner at Emergence, and Carina Hong, founder and CEO of Axiom. Nick, as always, thank you for co-hosting with me.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks everybody for watching. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Forward Future. Check out our newsletter, forwardfuture.ai, and we will see you next week.